The single most appealing aspect to battle shonen anime that bring people into the anime fandom is most definitely the fight scenes. At least, that's where it starts, until our taste buds branch out in a more global appreciation of a battle shonen, such as the characters and universe, etc., and that's all wonderful. All that aside, though, every anime takes the art of a fight scene by its own stride. Aside from the different dynamics of a fight, like how in My Hero Academia quirks are used, or how Nen is utilized in Hunter x Hunter, that's all really a different backdrop for how a fight can be laid out and how different sides can clash. Something like that can be substituted by cooking competitions or any sport, where there's a passion on each side of the battlefield, and how watching those passions collide can take many forms, and how they exhilarate our very being. Whether it's beautifully animated, the physical battle is just completely overshadowed by a massive strategy of brain power warfare, or simply if it's a character-driven fight, and you just want to see the, for example, physically disadvantaged Haikyuu protagonist, or the emotionally weakened, ever-present underdog protagonist kick some rightful ass. Whether because you're in love with the character themselves, or if they serve as some sort of motivational metaphor for each of us. It goes without saying, being that fight scenes, which play such a massive role, would need a far longer video to scrutinize some of the specific aspects that I've mentioned, especially if I wanted to compare series. So of course, feel free if you enjoyed this video to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know if you want something like this to continue. In any case, today, I'm narrowing down my range to One Piece versus Naruto. Not necessarily which one is superior, but how two shows that, despite being widely regarded by the people that generally don't have experience with either series, such as elitists that can't be bothered with plebeian trash. Everyone says that battle shonens are battle shonens, they fight with powers, the end. I've heard that statement far too often, how
every battle shonen is exactly the same. It involves good guys getting plot armor and beating the bad guys with the power of friendship and love, and somehow we'll wind down to ninjas and pirates getting into a children's card game to save the planet from aliens every individual arc over and over.
I'm currently working on a video how Naruto is a benchmark for recent shonens, but One Piece and its fight style have yet to really be recreated or even attempted to be recreated. Because, for example, while in Naruto the climax in every arc is the actual clash between the characters, and I'm not saying that in a negative way at all, but the climax of the Invasion of Pain arc was Naruto versus Pain. The climax of the Sasuke retrieval arc were the fights, not the journey to retrieve Sasuke. Whereas if you take a closer look at One Piece, the fights suck. That is, they suck in the conventional manner. Aside from the straight out, it's pretty plain old bad at adapting the manga that I have an entire other video written on already. But even in reading the manga itself, I cared a lot more about which character ended up where and ended up fighting whom a lot more than I cared about watching the actual battle. If I may, ask yourself right now, what are the 5 best moments of Naruto? Chances are they would all be fight scenes unless Itachi's twist is in one of them. But if you take a peek at One Piece and your top 5 favorite moments of One Piece, maybe it's at least for me, but not a single one of those 5 moments I'd choose would actually be fight scenes. I mostly noticed this because I'm planning on starting a series analyzing epic moments of anime, even though each video will probably only be between like 4 and 6 minutes long. But looking into things, when I think of epic Naruto moments, I'm thinking of Lee versus Gaara, Naruto versus Pain. But when I think epic One Piece moments, I think of Zoro taking that Kuma blast head on, and Luffy declaring war on the world government. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not even pretending to claim at this point that one is better than the other, because that's clearly a matter of personal preference. I'm just pointing out a contrast between how an epic fight scene can be utilized in complete opposite fashions while retaining its freaking awesomeness. To stress this point further, you have fights in Naruto that are 8 episodes of straight, breathtaking battle, as seen a few times throughout, such as the Pain fight or the Sasori fight, let alone the climax of the series. But even the smaller, less important battles, for example, the individual fights in the Sasuke retrieval arc against the Sound Ninja, each of them was like at least an hour. I'm not really complaining, because I really wasn't bored during any of those battles. But in One Piece, on the other hand, a single fight, despite its importance, will range somewhere between 5 minutes and 30 seconds. There are obviously exceptions to either category, but this is as far as broad spectrum analysis. There are several reasons that I picked up on these differences, but I believe the core difference here is the mindset of the narrative. Let's talk protagonists. On the outset alone, both protagonists share a similar dream, to become the Hokage or Pirate King, which essentially boils down to the same damn thing. And that brings me to my next point about another thing that grinds my gears, when people who haven't watched either of the series are like, oh yeah, it's like every other freaking shonen. Wizard King, greatest hero, pirate, ninja lord.
They're all the same!
And as a major perk of making this video, I get to stopper that too familiar spew of garbage, and I get to do it without even needing to go off topic as usual. In order for Naruto to become the Hokage, he has to become the strongest ninja. This is pretty much made clear from the get-go when we were introduced to an underdog protagonist from the outset, watching him grow in strength, and that was the growth the series was obviously interested in. However, in order for Luffy to become the Pirate King, his aim is to find the One Piece, which directs him to a journey, not a goal directly set in growth of power. Therefore, properly power scaling isn't nearly as important in One Piece. So the fact that Enel, who's living lightning, was beaten by Funky D. Poopy just because electricity doesn't affect rubber, even though a physical punch at the speed of light would be more than enough to decimate the Luffster. And while, of course, that's definitely noteworthy enough for me to mention in my honest descriptions on One Piece, which will be happening sooner than you think, it doesn't take you out of the marvel and adventure of One Piece's tale. Also, to become Hokage, while strength is required, to become Pirate King, a crew is far more important. And therefore, the character-driven narrative of One Piece make every little moment far more important than the grand-scale battles. That's why when an epic character that changes the entire battlefield of the known universe is introduced, everyone watching can get shaken to their core. An all too easy example of this would be introduction of Kaido, possessing one of the most dynamic anime entrances of all time, that despite not really seeing almost anything about him, it shifted every viewer's perspective on the entire narrative.
I'm gay.
So to go full circle, fight scenes are really important, not only to drag people into the anime fandom, but they are an integral part to an anime as a whole. And like any piece of story, they serve a completely different purpose in every narrative they take part in. Having nice animation, cool superpowers, and gorgeous choreography is great and all, but they're just as important to the story itself as many other components are. Equating anime because they're both battle shounens strikes me as equally blasphemous as taking potshots at an entire genre because it has one anime you don't like in it that you tried. The way a fight scene is manifested in any individual anime is supposed to correlate and complement the flow of the story and the development of the characters. One Piece and Naruto are two basic archetype examples exhibiting exactly the point I'm trying to get across in more ways than one. For example, the idea of One Piece is breeding our core cast to the utmost point while pitting them in a world of wonder. So, we need the fights to help embellish these aspects of the story. The fights are either all about accomplishing growing the characters as a family, much more that it's important for them to groom new techniques for future battles, like in Naruto. Or the fights are sometimes about some distant threat that doesn't even affect the core cast to broaden the scope of the world and add another cog to the machine, increasing knowledge of the universe. Having a power level basis at the same time, which increases the eventual threat to our main cast, and acknowledge the upcoming future. For example, the Ace versus Blackbeard clash, or even the early meetup between Whitebeard and Shanks, served this purpose exactly. The outlook on the world has changed, and the scope has expanded. While in Naruto, the universe is there, not to add scope per se to the story, but to add history and legend. And the character progression isn't necessarily to grow characters into a tightly knit family, but more focused on each ninja overcoming their personal past burdens. So the sensei lineage and the fact that he was finally respected by his village made the Pain fight one of the most riveting anime battles of its length. In this fight, he surpassed his master, becoming a perfect sage and defeating someone who filled the role as a prominent foe with a deep link to his master's history. Two completely adverse takes on how to write a fight scene well, despite both being wrongfully blacklisted as cliche long-running shonens, with both, when done right, incredible in their own way, and none of them completely fulfilled the role of, hey, I'm bored, let's look up cool anime fight scenes on YouTube. But both do serve the much larger purpose of enhancing the entirety of their respective series. Done right, the fight scenes become the narrative of a show and can speak intellectually to the fan base more properly than some of the best written conversations. Integrated properly and written with the right mindset, a battle can unassumingly become a factor to the larger plot, but told via emotion rather than statements. That is an art. That is the art of a fight scene. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I resulted in using One Piece and Naruto as the major examples for this video to get across my points, but if you'd like another comparative video similar to this, this, like for example between Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night, or really anything, I wouldn't need to go through the basics again, and they should be easier to put together. Also, I really want to do that epic moment analysis thing. If that seems interesting to you fellas as well as basically anything, feel free to let me know. Hit that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribble for more anime analysis parodies or all-around nuxisms, which are probably the scariest of those three. Have yourself a most wonderful evening, and I'll see all of you next time.